Good morning all. So previous lecture માં આપણે અલગ અલગ ઇમ્પેક્ટ જોઈ હતી બરાબર કે પેડેસ્ટ્રિયન જે છે બરાબર છે એ લોકોના કયા કયા એવા કેરેક્ટરિસ્ટિક હતી કે જેનાથી ચાન્સીસ ઓફ ધ occurring of the fatal accidents બરાબર એના પછી ઇમ્પેક્ટ ઓફ ધ ડ્રગ્સ એન્ડ આલ્કોહોલ્સ ઓન ધ રોડ યુઝર્સ બરાબર કે કોઈ બી રોડ યુઝર્સ છે એ આલ્કોહોલ કન્ઝ્યુમ કરી અને પછી એનું વ્હીકલ આગળ ડ્રાઈવ કરતો હોય બરાબર છે તો એની શું ઇફેક્ટ થાય એ આપણે જોયું ધ ઇમ્પેક્ટ ઓફ એજિંગ ઓન ધ રોડ યુઝર્સ બરાબર કે જેમ જેમ એજ વધતી જાય એમ જે બી રોડ યુઝર્સ છે એ લોકોની ડ્રાઇવિંગ ઉપર શું ઇમ્પેક્ટ થાય બરાબર તો અત્યાર સુધી આપણે જેટલા બી જે બી ટોપિક જોયા બરાબર એ બધી જ ફિઝિયોલોજીકલ કેપેબિલિટી પર હતા બરાબર કે ભાઈ એની ફિઝિયોલોજીકલ કેપેબિલિટી કેટલી છે લાઈક એનું આઈસાઇટ કેવી છે હિયરિંગ એબિલિટી કેવી છે બરાબર રિએક્શન ટાઈમ કેવો છે બરાબર પછી તો હવે નેક્સ્ટ જે ટોપિક છે આપણો બરાબર છે એમાં આપણે સાયકોલોજીકલ પેરામીટર ધ્યાનમાં રાખીશું કે ભાઈ અમુક વખતે ઘણા ડ્રાઈવર્સ એવા હોય કે જે ડિપ્રેશનમાંથી પાસ થતા હોય તો એ વખતે એમની મેન્ટલ કન્ડિશન શું હોય છે અને એ મેન્ટલ કન્ડિશન ઉપર એ લોકોની જે ડ્રાઇવિંગ છે એ કેવી રીતે અફેક્ટ થતી હોય છે બરાબર so in the past few years traffic engineers and the public in general have become acquainted with the term road rage commonly applied to drivers who lose control of themselves and react a wide variety of situations violently, improperly, and almost always dangerously. Well, the problem is now getting well-deserved attention. Road rage, however, is a colloquial term and is applied to everything from a direct physical assault by one road users on another to a variety of aggressive driving behavior. ઘણી વખતે રોડ રેજ તમે સાંભળીએ છે ઘણા લોકો બહુ જ રફ ડ્રાઈવ કરતા હોય અને કોઈ કામ પાસ થતું હોય લાઈક આપણે ઘણી વખતે જોયું છે કે ઘણા લોકોની એવી મેન્ટાલિટી હોય કે ભાઈ કોઈ એને આગળ આમ ઓવરટેક કરી જાય તો એને એવું થાય કે ભાઈ મને ઓવરટેક કરી કેમ હું એની જોડે રેસ લગાવું ને પછી બંને રેસ લગાવે એમાં અલ્ટિમેટલી કોઈ એક જણને સફર કરવાનું આવે So road rage commonly applied to the drivers who lose control over themselves and react to a wide variety of situations violently, improperly, and almost always dangerously. The problem is now getting well-deserved attention. Road rage, however, is a colloquial terms and is applied to the everything from a direct physical assault by one road users on another to a variety of aggressive driving behavior. According to the testimony of Dr. John Larson to the House Surface Transportation Subcommittee on July 17, 1997, the following attitude characterize aggressive drivers. બરાબર કયા કયા એટીટ્યુડ્સ છે કે જેને આપણે ટર્મ કહી શકીએ કે ભાઈ આ આવી કંઈક સિચ્યુએશન કે આવી રીતે બિહેવ કરી રહ્યો તો એ કાઇન્ડ ઓફ અગ્રેસિવ ડ્રાઈવર હોઈ શકે the desire to get one destination as quickly as possible, leading to the expression of anger at other driver pedestrians who impeded this desire. સૌથી પહેલા કે જેટલું જલ્દી થઈ શકે એટલું જલ્દી ડેસ્ટિનેશન સુધી પહોંચવાની desire. The desire to get to one's destination as quickly as possible, leading to the expression of anger at other drivers and the pedestrians who impeded this desire. The need to compete with other fast cars. બરાબર તમે કીધું કોઈ ઓવરટેક કરી ગયું કે ભાઈ આ મને ઓવરટેક કરી કેમ મારે હવે આને પાછળ મારવો છે. The need to respond competitively to other aggressive drivers. બરાબર કે બીજો સામે બી કોઈ એવો અગ્રેસિવ ડ્રાઈવર હોય તો તમે બેવને કઈ રીતે રિસ્પોન્ડ કરો છો. Contempt for other drivers who do not drive, look and act as they do on the road. The belief that it is their right to hit back at other driver whose driving behavior threatens them. બરાબર કે ભાઈ જેને કોઈને એવું લાગતું હોય કે આ મને આ ઠોકી દેશે એને આપણે જેને ઠોકી દેવી બરાબર એવી રીતે આ બધા જ જે કેરેક્ટરિસ્ટિક ઓર જે એટીટ્યુડ્સ છે બરાબર એ તમે ડિફાઇન કરે કે યુ આર ધ અગ્રેસિવ ડ્રાઈવર. Road rage is the extreme expression of a driver's psychological and personal displeasure over the traffic situation he or she has encountered. It does, however, remind the traffic engineers that drivers display a wide range of behavior in accordance with their own personalities and psychological characteristics. Once again, most of these factors cannot be addressed directly through the design or control decision and are best treated through vigorous enforcement and educational programs. બરાબર સો આ રીતે બધા પ્રોબ્લેમ્સ કદાચ સાયકોલોજીકલ પર્સનાલિટી એટીટ્યુડ ઉપર બરાબર કે કેવી પછી છે vehicles. બરાબર, હવે આપણે આ જે ચેપ્ટર સ્ટાર્ટ કર્યું બરાબર, એમાં આપણે બે ટાઈપની કેરેક્ટરિસ્ટિક ભણવાની છે, રોડ યુઝર્સ કેરેક્ટરિસ્ટિક એન્ડ vehicular કેરેક્ટરિસ્ટિક. બરાબર. So the road user characteristic માં મેઇનલી બે રીતની આવે, એક તો ફિઝિયોલોજિકલ કેરેક્ટરિસ્ટિક આવે અને સેકન્ડ આવે તમારી સાયકોલોજિકલ કેરેક્ટરિસ્ટિક. સો ફિઝિયોલોજિકલ આપણે ભણી લીધી, સાયકોલોજિકલ આપણે ભણી લીધી. સો હવે આવશે આપણી vehicular characteristic. In the year 2000 there were numbers of registered vehicles in the United States, a number that represent more than the world vehicle per licensed driver. The characteristics of the vehicles vary as widely as those of the motorists who drive them. In general, motor vehicles are classified by the ASTO in four main categories. Right? So first is the passenger cars, all passenger cars, SUVs, minivans, vans, and the pickup trucks. So this all types of the vehicles are fall into the passenger car classifications. The second is a buses, in intercity motor coaches, transit buses, school buses, and articulated buses. Okay, so there are the number of buses like the intercity motor buses, in general, if we are talking about like AMTS and the PRTS, okay, and other type of the transportation buses. So this all kind of transportation mode are all into the bus type classification. The next is the trucks, the single unit truck, trailer, tractor, and the tractor semi-trailer combination, and the eight vehicle axial tractor. So this kind of the trucks or this kind of the vehicles are fall into the truck classification. And the last but not the least, the recreational vehicle, motorhomes, cars with the various type of the trailers, boat, campers, motorcycle, etc. Okay, in India, there are no kind of the moving homes are available because we don't have that type of the road networks, or we don't have that much wider road networks in available in our country. So in the foreign countries, there are the moving homes that the people are moving from one location to another location, or who are willing to or who are willingly or dedicated to the travel throughout their life journey. So this kind of the vehicles like motorhomes, car with the various type of the trailers are fall into the recreational vehicles. The motorcycle and bicycle also use highway and the street facilities, but are not isolated as separate category, as their characteristics do not usually limit or define design or control needs. There are a number of critical vehicle properties that must be accounted for in the design of roadways and traffic control. This includes braking and deacceleration, braking and deacceleration, acceleration, low speed turning characteristic, and the high speed turning characteristic. Okay, so the main four controls of any vehicle are classified or discussed in the below 4 points, that like the braking and the acceleration. So when a person apply a brake, so what is the deacceleration ratio from a particular design speed to the stopping speed? Okay, so this kind of the deacceleration ratio when the person apply to a brake, so what are the deacceleration ratio and what are the braking efficiency of that vehicle? Like if we are brake, if we suddenly stop, if we have to suddenly stop the vehicle and we applied a brake, so if the vehicle are just moving a 10 to 20% of the designated SST distance, so we call that the braking efficiency of that vehicle is a pretty good. But if after applying the brake, the vehicle are still moving with the deaccelerating speed or moving with the or cover more than the SST distance, so the braking efficiency of that vehicle are pretty much lesser. Okay, so next is the acceleration. So what are the acceleration ratio, or what are the RPMs, and what are the major engine CC? So that it all depends on the acceleration ratio. The next is a low speed turning characteristic and the high speed turning characteristic. So it in both the characteristics, the main elements who are play a massive role is the weight of the vehicle and the center of gravity of that vehicle, CG of the vehicle. Okay, so in the highway engineering, when we were discussing super elevation, So we saw that the vehicles are moving at a constant speed on a curvature. So the vehicle are slight tends to the outer edges of that curvature. So the low speed turning characteristic and the high speed turning characteristic both depends on the weight of the vehicle, the axial distance between the two tires, and the center of gravity of that vehicle. Okay, in more general terms, the issue associated with the vehicles of vastly different size, weight, and operating characteristics sharing roadways must also be addressed by the traffic engineers. Okay, so in the highway, we were discussing design vehicle and design speed. So what is a design vehicle and design speed? So in the highway engineering, when any roads are to be built or any roads will going to be built on that particular land, so there are kind of a design vehicle and the design speed are implemented that the majority of the vehicle are passing on that kind of the speed. So given the immense range of the vehicle type using the street and the highway facility, it is necessary to adopt a standard vehicle characteristic for design and control purposes. For the geometric design, ASTO has defined a 20 design vehicle, which each with a specified characteristic. The 20 design vehicles are defined as a passenger car, single unit truck, intercity bus with a 40 feet wheelbase, intercity bus with 45 feet wheelbase, transit bus, conventional school bus for 65 passengers, large school bus for 84 passengers, articulated bus, intermediate semi-trailer. The basic difference of the distance between the wheelbase. Okay, so the distance between the right tire from the left tire or left tire to the right tire. Okay, so Astor gives us a variety of the specific vehicles which are to be taken into account while designing any transportation facility or any road networks. So wheelbase dimensions are measured from the furthermost axial to the rearmost axial, including both the tractor and the trailer in the combination vehicle. Design vehicles are primarily employed in the design of turning roadways and intersection curves and are used to help determine appropriate land widths and such specific design features as a lane widening on the curve. So in the highway engineering, when we're discussing the super elevation and widening of the roads, so for that kind of the phenomena or for that kind of the processes, uh, every traffic engineer has to decide a particular number of the design vehicles which are going to pass on that street network or on that highway. So with the help of that or with the help of the dimension of the vehicles and the basic characteristic of that vehicles, so the traffic engineers are adopt and change the curvatures and the land widening or the land dimension of that particular street or highway. Key to such uses, however, is the selection of an appropriate design vehicle for various type of the facilities and the situation. In general, the design should consider the largest vehicle likely to use the facility with a reasonable frequency. So, when any traffic engineer or highway engineer are going to design any street network or a highway road, so they are taking into mind that the largest vehicle for all kind of the design specification or design criteria. So when the largest vehicle are moving moving with the ace, all other type of the vehicles are convenient for that kind of system. So in considering the selection of an emergency sorry so in considering the selection of a design vehicle, it must be remembered that all parts of the street and highway network must be accessible to the emergency vehicle, including the fire engines, ambulance, emergency evacuation vehicles, and emergency repair vehicles, among others. Therefore, the single unit truck is usually the minimum design vehicle selected for the most local state application. The mobility of hook and ladder fire vehicle is enhanced by having a rear axial steering that allows this vehicle to negotiate sharper turns that would normally be possible for combination vehicles. So the use of the single unit truck as a design vehicle for local streets is not considered to hinder emergency vehicles. The passenger car the passenger car is used as a design vehicle only in parking lots, and even then, access to the emergency vehicle must be considered. For most other classes or types of the highways, the intersection, the selection of a design vehicle must consider the expected vehicle mix. In general, the design vehicle selected should easily accommodate 95% of the more or more of the expected vehicle mix. The physical dimension of the design vehicles are also important for consideration. Design vehicle heights range from 4.25 feet for a passenger car to 13.5 feet for the largest truck. Overhead clearance or of overpass and the sign structure, electrical wires, and other overhead apertures should be sufficient to allow the largest anticipated vehicle to be proceed. As all facilities must accommodate a wide variety of potential emergency vehicles, use of 14 feet for minimum clearance is advisable for most facilities. The width of the design vehicle ranges from 7 feet for passenger car to 8.5 feet for the largest truck, excluding the special wide load vehicles such as a tractor pulling a prefabricated or a motorhome. This should influence the design of such feature as a lane width and shoulder. For most facilities, it is desirable to use the standard 12 feet lane width. Narrower lanes may be considered for some type of facilities when necessary, but even with the width of the modern vehicles, the 10 feet is a reasonable minimum for the virtually all applications. Okay. So the dimensions of the vehicle are much more important while the or much more importance while taking or while designing any road system or a highway system. So the height and the width of the any particular vehicle are useful for deciding the lane width and the shoulder dimensions on the highway as well as the street dimensions. Okay. So next is the turning characteristic of the vehicle. So we will be discussing this new topic on the next lecture. Okay, so see you in the